Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. You're at home with Melissa, and today I want to share with you something that is still quite a mess because I'm still working on it, but I have enough done that I can show it to you. I can show you what it looks like, and I can show you how to do it. These are my plastic bottle window gardens. Let me turn it this way so you can get a look at the whole thing. Look at that. Isn't that neat? I wanted to hurry up. It's early in the morning. And I wanted to hurry up and film this because the sunlight is coming in already, but I wanted to catch it before the sun's too high in the sky and the backlighting's too terrible. But basically how this started was I had some 4-foot lengths of rebar, 3/4 inch diameter. And when I brought one of them in the house one day, I noticed they looked to be about the same height as the height of my windows. And so, of course, what did I think? But, ooh, window gardens, yes. So they're a little bit shorter than the length of the windows, but that doesn't matter. I will show you how it's done, and you can take it from there for yourself. Again, like I said, it's really easy. Now you can see I planted a tomato there in the middle. I would suggest you actually plant those at the top because they'll vine downward and you'll just have a lot more space for them to grow. Also with tomatoes, they tend to have large roots. So I don't know if this tomato will be able to make it to the point, hi kitty, where things are mature or not. But, sorry for the shaking, I was trying to reach my cat. But, the lettuce and the oregano and the mint and the basil, if I water it before it dies, and the other basil, they should all do well, and as well as will, anything that I plant in there, because from here on in, I'm going to be planting seeds in them for things that I know the roots will fit. I know that it'll be fine. The tomatoes, like I said, I think the cherry tomatoes that I'm going to plant in a different window, I think will do fine. But this tomato here is a larger variety, and I really don't know if it will be able to make it to the point where it bears fruit in this small container. We'll see. But basically, a 3/4 inch diameter piece of rebar will fit through the neck of a 2-liter bottle and just leave a tiny, tiny bit of space around it, okay? So that space will allow water to go down through. And what you do, or what I did, is first, I turned the bottle upside down, and as you can see, I cut plastic holes toward what was originally the bottom of the bottle. Then I cut a hole in the bottom that will allow the bottleneck from the bottle above to fit down inside it. See that? So basically that locks them in place. You have the bottleneck from the one above locking it in place, and then its own bottleneck locking it in place at the bottom. The top, it's locked in place from the bottle above, and the bottom is locked in place by its own bottleneck, which then in turn locks the next bottle down in place with the piece of rebar. As you can see there, it goes through the middle. And that holds everything nice and sturdy. Your plants, if they get heavy, they will still hold up here. And all I did to put these little things in place, like I said, the window was about a 1/2 inch taller than the rebar. Not a problem. I got little pieces of scrap wood. You can see it there. And I cut them. You could just leave them square if you want. But I cut them at an angle just to make it look nicer, I thought. Drilled a hole using a 1/2 inch bit through the middle of it and hooked the top one into the window frame. And then I slid all of the bottles onto the rebar, and then another piece of wood. Look at that dirt. You can tell I just planted this. I really needed to hurry, and I got live plants to plant for you to show you because I was so excited about this project. I didn't want to wait. So until my plants that I plant grow out. So I went and got some live plants to be able to show you what I did and for you to have the effect. The bottom one is just like the top, the bottom piece of wood. And again, you drill into it with a 1/2-inch bit, and the rebar will go down into the wood. And if you find that it's a little bit small, just work it a little bit larger. The rebar will go down into it. That'll hold it in place in the wood. And whoops, sorry. And the wood, of course, is just nailed in place itself. Now, if you're wondering why I have the gold colored tape around the bottoms of the bottles, which were, remember, originally the tops, is simply to keep sunlight from hitting the roots. When you grow plants, when plants grow outside, the roots are below the ground. The sunlight doesn't really get in there and hit the roots. And you run a risk if you leave the plant's roots exposed to the sun, you run the risk of the sunlight burning those roots and the plant then dying. So, let me sit down again. So I put tape around what would have originally been the top of the bottle. I didn't worry about going the whole way down the neck because that neck is going to be fitted in to this part on the bottom, on the bottle below. But I cut my square or squares. I made them differently, some of them smaller, some of them larger. And I went up higher and lower with the gold tape on some of them, depending on how much space I wanted to have for roots in that particular container. And then I just taped around up to the holes. And you don't have to be neat. They don't have to look nice because, look at that, the overall impression once you get them installed is beautiful. It just really looks great. And the benefit of doing it this way, I threw the bottle I was showing you. But the benefit of doing it this way is that when you water that top plant, since each of them is hooked with an opening into the one below, that water, you can give it excess, and the excess will drip down and water all the other plants on the way down. Isn't that neat? And then if you want to, you can actually silicone caulk around the bottom bottle to keep any water from going out onto your windowsills. Look at that mess. I'm going to have to do some serious cleaning. And I also advise that you not do what I did on this one and plant them willy-nilly. I suggest you plant whatever's going in the top bottle first for many reasons. One is that as you're working, if that's up high and you have plants planted down lower, you could very well crush the bottom plants while you're planting the top plants, and you don't want to do that. In addition to which, when you're putting the dirt in the holes that you've made in your 2-liter bottle, it can be difficult to get the dirt and soil in through there. And as a result, you're dropping it all over the plants that you've already planted if you didn't start at the top. And then you have to clean the dirt that you've spilled all over the place off of them before you move on. So that's another reason to start at the top. It just saves you effort. Now, another little tip is that in each one of these planters, in the bottom, I've placed a handful of stones. Now, what this will do is it'll keep the spaces even smaller around that rebar down which the water's going to drip. And so it will allow the water to flow through while probably holding, I say probably because, I just did this and I don't know. But it probably will keep the soil from falling down into the container below. It'll keep your soil in place because you've blocked a lot of the hole there. Just like kind of when you, say you use a terracotta pot that has a large drainage hole in the bottom and you put a bit of curved terracotta over that hole to allow water through while keeping the soil in. That's kind of what I've done in each of these with the rocks. And so I put, just a handful of stones in the bottom, and then soil, and then the plant. Now be aware that as you put your plant in there, there's not a tremendous amount of space around the rebar. I think probably things will grow even better if you do grow from seed, making sure, of course, to keep those seeds very moist until they germinate. But if you get a plant that's from a nursery or one of your local stores or something, when you go to put it in the bottle, it's difficult to get it in through the hole. And you'll also find that you kind of have to tear the roots to get it around the rebar. So those are some things to be aware of, some tips that I have for you. And I'll tell you what, these take no time at all to make. They really don't. You just get a knife or, say, a wood burner and cut your holes near what was originally the bottom of the 2-liter bottle. Tape around or paint. You could paint around, spray paint or what have you, around what was originally the top of the bottle, beginning at just the base of your holes, and then you cut a hole in what was originally the bottom of the bottle to allow the rebar and the bottle from above it to fit down in it. So you just basically cut some holes in the bottle, tape around part of it, slide it onto the rebar, nail the rebar in place in the space in which you want it, and you're ready to go. Dump some stone and soil into each bottle, and then you can plant away, either from seeds or from plants that you purchase. And I think that that's really neat. It's really sturdy. I think it looks really sharp. You might agree. I don't know if you will or not, but the thing that I always worry about when using, say, 2-liter bottles for a project that's going to be as visible as this one will, is that, it's going to look like you're just using 2-liter bottles. But as you can see, with the plants growing out, these look very nice. They look very nice, and you have saved those bottles from having to be hauled away to be recycled. You've just repurposed them. And so rebar is fairly cheap if you want to use rebar. You could probably also use PVC pipe. Keep in mind that if you do, PVC pipe is flexible. You could use any kind of metal rod or things like that. I only advise that you not use wooden dowel rods because they'll probably rot where you have your soil, and then your project will just fall apart. So anything else will work for you. And you can get some of these materials really cheaply. You can get the tape cheaply. You can get spray paint, which is even cheaper. You can get your bottles for free from your own use or that of your friends and relatives. So there you go. That's our project for this morning. And I hope y'all enjoyed it, and join me next time for another cool project. And I hope in the meantime, you just enjoy yourselves. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.